For thousands of years, a legend has remained hidden.
There's this one night that I can remember, where at night, all you could hear were the howls and the screams that just came echoing from the woods.
Of a beast that only lives in folklore.
I turned around, and that's when Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, walked out of myth and into reality.
A creature believed to be the missing link between humans and apes.
I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that what I was looking at that day was not a human.
Are these animals real, or a part of our imagination? Find out right here on Sasquatch Diaries.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Diaries podcast. I am your host, Gus G. This week's podcast, we have an interview with a gentleman named John from Utah, who discusses multiple encounters with Sasquatch he's had throughout his life. So let's jump right in, and let's give John a big, warm Sasquatch Diaries welcome. John, are you there?
Well, I'm John. I'm from Logan, Utah. Married, have a kid. Been interested in Bigfoot since I was like 9 years old. Had a few encounters, and yeah, I just love the subject.
Fantastic. Okay. So you said you have a few. Is there a particular one you want to go over? Do you want to go over a couple of them? I'm flexible. It's whatever you want to do.
It's up to you. I mean, if you want to ask questions, and I'll answer or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll start with the first encounter you had, because you said you had a couple. How many off the top of my head, if I may ask?
Probably three. I would classify as between A and B. Like, you know, like it's a quick glimpse, or, you know, actually saw, you know, I saw the whole silhouette of one. I saw some fast moving, you know, brown blurs, and a few, you know, class B's with sounds, and C's with, you know, knocks and stuff. So probably like 7 or 8.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay. Well, okay. So tell us about the one of the sightings that you had.
Probably my favorite one is, I tell people about the tent. I think you saw that on my Instagram. I was backpacking in the Wind Rivers in Wyoming. I was up a big sandy lake, and I was the only one there. I hiked in midweek, and it was right after school started. So all the scouts were done hiking in and everything. And I was there for 3 nights. And my first 2 days was pretty quiet. Like I just fished and hiked around and relaxed and stuff. And then on my 3rd night, I went to bed about 10. Well, right before that, like right when it was getting dark, I kept hearing rock slides. And if you know Big Sandy Lake, there's a kind of like a rock slide area. I kept hearing rocks fall, and I thought I heard a wood knock or two, but I put it off as something else. And I went to bed about 10 o'clock, and about 2 a.m., I just woke right up. And I just sat there, and I looked up over my head. I was on my back, and my tent wall got pushed in. And it got pushed in by a big hand. It wasn't a bear paw. It wasn't a moose nose. I could see the outlines because it was a nice clear night. The moon was out. You could see everything. And I could see the outline of the hand, you know, all the fingertips. And it was extremely big and wide. And it pushed in right over my head. I coughed, and it slowly backed off the hand. And it stepped back a few steps, and I could kind of hear it. And I'm like, I know you're out there. And then as I talked, I think it startled it, and it walked away. And the weird thing about that whole thing is there was no sounds in the woods. Like all the birds, all the insects, all the owls, there was nothing. And then once I heard it gone, all the sounds came back.
Yeah, and I've heard that. I've heard that about, you know, Sasquatches, is that they you know, when they're around, it gets eerily quiet. It's almost as if, these animals that are around are kind of those like those background noises. They all disappear, and you're like, okay, this is kind of weird.
Yeah. And I didn't really notice any sounds like, or pay attention to any sounds, even right before bed. So I just think it was just right around 2:00 when everything went quiet. I don't know what was going on, but I kind of think it was interested in me because I'm allowed, like, I used to snore a lot. And so I was probably making some noises, probably snoring, talking in my sleep. But it was a big hand. And people say it was a bear. A bear doesn't have fingertips like that. It's not spread out as a human hand. And it was real gentle, like it was real softly pushed in, like it wasn't like a forceful push. So I don't know.
Wow.
I just know it was a big hand. I didn't find any tracks. But that was a big sandy lake in the Wind Rivers. And I had another one not far from there up at Heart Lake where I actually saw it.
Really?
So yeah, that was about 4 years ahead of that. So like that one sighting I think happened in 2001 or 2000, and the other one was when I was 17. So like that was when I was 17 was 94. So about 5-6 years ahead of that. And are you there?
Yep.
Okay. So we is our scout troop, is our scout summer hike. We were in the Wind Rivers again, up at Heart Lake. We did a few lakes on the way up, and we were camped at Heart Lake, and we were hiking around this little area up above it, and there's a small pond, and we were up on the cliffs pushing rocks down, and just being scouts and being boys. And me and my friend Chris were hiking back to camp around the small lake that was above Heart Lake, and we found a dead elk. And the elk, it was probably there maybe a month. I mean, it was, it's been dead for a while, and it was freshly picked. It was pretty much gone. Mm-hmm. And on the side of that, there's a small little like ridge or hill. And we were hiking down the trail, and we looked up, and the sun was backlit. So it backlit it, and all we saw was a big, hairy man. But we thought it was probably something else. Like it was weird. Like we didn't think about it until after we got back to camp with what we saw. But it was standing up, long arms, hair flowing, but all we could see was the backlit. It was like a shadow. It was all backlit by the sun. So all you saw was this black. We didn't see any details, but how big it was really what me and Chris found out later, or we went over it later at camp. We're like, was that a Bigfoot? And we've heard stories about Bigfoot up there all the time with scouts, and we played it off. And so that happened. But later that night, we were all around the camp, and this horse train came up. So if you don't, a horse train is when you have like a pack animals and you have people on the horses. So there was like 8 or 9 horses came up with like riders. But the strange thing is they all had guns. They all had rifles, and it wasn't hunting season. It was middle of July, and there was a ranger who was leading them. And rangers normally don't lead hunters in to in the forest. And we said hi to them, and they said, we're just going on a trail ride, and there's bears around, so we have to have the guns. But we're like, that's a lot of guns for a bear. And later that night, about 10 o'clock, we just heard gunshots for like 5 or 10 minutes, just pop, pop, pop.
Wow.
And up the valley from us. And we're like, what the heck are they shooting at, like at 10 o'clock at night? But we didn't see anything after that. We didn't hear anything after about that 10 minutes. So we went to bed, and about 2 o'clock, me and my friend were in my tent, Chris and me. We woke up to hearing something in our camp. And it was rummaging through all our our coolers and everything. And we got up in the morning, and they were all rearranged, like in camp. We thought it was probably like a raccoon or something, or a coyote, but we didn't hear any of those kind of sounds. It sounded like there was someone walking around, but we just assumed it was our, somebody from our group or our leaders. But we got up, and our eggs were missing, and our bread was missing for our breakfast. And just strange thing like that, we just had that kind of happen. But when we thought about it after we got back to camp, we think it was a Bigfoot that was backlit by the sun. It wasn't a bear. I think a bear would have probably like roared or something or done something else. But I think it was more surprised that we were there, and it stood still to make sure that we couldn't see it probably. Because, it wasn't moving at all, except it was in between these two trees, and it was huge. And that's another one. I 100% believe there's a Bigfoot. That's just what I believe. Because I've been around bears. I've been around black bears and grizzlies. I've been around grizzlies in Denali, Alaska, and it was not a bear. So those are my two that I tell them, I tell the most.
Wow, absolutely incredible. Okay, because I'm thinking to myself, when people see it, their first inclination is, oh, it's a bear. And, for someone who has seen one, I've never seen one. So I'm only an enthusiast, I'll be honest with you. But from someone who's experienced and seen them with their own two eyes, what kind of factors distinguish from a bear to a Bigfoot, in your opinion, at least?
Well, to me, a lot of it is the it's the timing and the incident of it. Like if you're in an area where there's lots of bears, then I would assume it, I give it a 50-50 chance, of what it was. But also you have to take into account what happened after or before, like most of the time, if you see a bear, you're going to hear it or smell it first. Like if you don't know, lots of black bears smell like popcorn, like really weird or garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And we, when I saw that thing on the hill just above us, it didn't look like a bear. Like I didn't have that fear of a bear because, because we were in bear country, and we didn't see one bear for the whole week we were there. Didn't see any signs of them or anything. And so we didn't have that in our head at all. So if we would have seen a bear, it would have, been exciting and stuff. But Chris, as he walked by, he pretty much said, we see that old man up there. And, but I just blew that off. Like, okay, he's not, he's being cautious, or like, he just doesn't care. So we really didn't even stop and stare at it. We just kept walking.
Really?
But from things I've seen and people who I've talked to who've seen it and experienced it, they say that the biggest thing they notice that it's not a bear is the shoulders and the head and how it stands, and how it holds itself up. And it's I don't know. I think everything's different with everybody who perceive things different. I've talked to a guy who swore he saw one, and then it turns out it was a bear walking on two legs. So I don't know. What do you think?
I honestly, my inclination is, yeah, you saw a Bigfoot. Like you said, the timing was on point. And, for someone's inclination to be, oh, it's a man, you know what I mean? That's kind of like, okay, because that's what people describe seeing, right? Is a large, hairy, ape-like man, give or take. So, and when you saw them, when you had both of these incidents, like, was there any sound that came from them that, because bears have a pretty distinct roar, you know what I mean? Did this give out a grunt? Did it break a branch? Did it look at you? Did it grunt or roar or growl?
Well, after the tent thing, so at the tent one, when it walked away, I could tell it was bipedal because you could hear the footfalls.
Of
And
course.
and I could tell that was like, not a bear, because I mean, I've had bears, up in Alaska walk, 10 feet from my tent, and you could tell it was a bear because you could hear it. Now, this is, it sounds it was making as it was walking, and how it shuffled and everything, how it sniffed the air. This thing didn't do any of that. It just walked away. But with the one at Heart Lake, I didn't stick around long enough to see it make a sound, or I mean, to hear a sound at all. What we felt, or what I felt, after I thought about it for a while, is that it was holding still, so we wouldn't see it. But we did see it, but I think it held still, assuming that we wouldn't see it. So that's why it was quiet. It didn't make a sound. I think it didn't see us walking up that trail, because we came around a bush, a blind corner, and that's when we saw the elk on the ground. And I don't know if it was going to the elk to get bones to make it, I don't know, like to chew on bones. But Ori was curious because we were all up in that area, because there was there was 12 of us up there.
Wow.
There were 12 scouts, and our leaders are, there was 5 more leaders. And so, I mean, there were 17 people up there in that area. So we must have, been a real, entertainment for it.
Of course, you were causing a ruckus, and that's what I've heard too.
Yeah.
These creatures are very curious too. So,
Yeah.
when you did have this encounter, did you feel threatened at all, or what was kind of going through your mind? It's like, was it more like, oh, what the heck is this? What am I looking at, kind of thing?
Yeah. As I walked by, that's pretty much what I was like. I'm like, okay. I was just like, I don't know. Like, I can't really pinpoint in my mind what I was thinking, because it happened so fast. But I know what I saw, and it was like, I didn't have any fear. I didn't have anything. Like, if it was a bear, like, that's the thing, is like, in my mind, I recognized it wasn't a bear. And because I've been bear hunting and I've done all that. And so, I mean, I've had incidents with bears, even at that age. And like, if I would have known, if my mind would have clicked it was a bear, I think I would have reacted different. But for some reason, I just knew it wasn't a bear. So I don't know.
So that time where it had seen you and it kind of stood still, did you see, like, was it at nighttime or was it in the day?
No, it was daytime because the sun was backlit. So they were standing in front of the sun. So all we saw was the outline, So if you go on my page, you saw that story. It's on there. If you click over to the other picture, it shows it how it looked, and it was just shadow. Like, I can't explain shadow. Shadow's different, but it was backlit, So like, if you have your hand, in front of your face, facing the sun, all you'll see is the black outline of your hand.
Right.
And so that's what we saw, was this something was backlit, and it was huge, and it wasn't a tree. It was in between these 2 big dead pine trees, so there was no green on them, no branches. It was just big and dark. And we could tell it was big, like it was a live thing, because there was, because we could see the hair flowing. I mean, there was a few, browns, shots of brown that we saw, of the fur, but there was no facial expressions or anything.
How far away, like distance-wise, would you think?
Oh, let's see. We were on a trail under it, so 20 yards, maybe.
20 yards. Sorry, we're
maybe closer.
Canadian. So that's 3 feet in a yard, right? Roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, so about 60 feet. Wow.
Or closer. I mean, it seemed a lot. Yeah, but see, and that's how I knew how big it was. It wasn't a bear, because it was just like, but that's 60 feet, from the bottom of the trail to where it was, because it was above us. So we looked up at it, and so it wasn't straight away from us. It was up a hill. So just by that size too, it was nuts.
Wow. So
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
no, that's just what happened. And later that night, when we had have something come in our camp and rummage through our coolers, and then, but the weird one was that ranger leading that party. I've never seen that, and I've backpacked up there a lot, and I've never seen rangers lead people with big old rifles in the middle of summer.
Did they look like they were government workers, or what did they look like? Those guys with guns?
The ranger had his ranger outfit on, the lime green or whatever you call it, like the camo white green, and the patches, said U.S. Forest Service on it, the patch on it, but the guys weren't dressed like that. They were like hunters.
Oh, okay.
But it was weird. But rangers don't do that. Rangers don't lead hunting groups up in the Wind Rivers or anywhere that I've seen.
Yeah.
And then all the gunshots, like at 10 o'clock at night. That, it was dark. I mean, they're shooting at something.
Wow.
I don't know. That was a strange one for us.
Yeah.
Because even my leaders, our leaders were big old, like mountain men who hunt, and I had one leader, he hunts all the time, and he's like, that's not normal to have a group shooting at 10 o'clock at night up here in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, especially when they're fairly close to people too, right?
Yeah, well, they were clear up the valley from us. I'm not sure how far they got. It sounded closer than it probably was because, the echoes and the canyon. But still, 10 o'clock at night, you're not going to sight in your scopes at night. So, but we didn't see any spotlights or nothing. So I don't know what they were shooting at.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that was one of the strange things too that happened. So.
Now, did you hear? Because I've heard a story similar to this. There was a gentleman up here, I believe it was either in Alberta or British Columbia, who had been following a Sasquatch, been on the trail for the longest time, and coincidentally, late at night, around 2-3 in the morning, he was woken up to this huge, there was a helicopter over him, flying over top of him. And it's just going through the woods, and all of a sudden, he hears pow, 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 gunshots. And then a couple of people yelling, okay, get it, you got it, okay, great. They load it, and then the chopper takes off, and he no longer saw that animal again.
Wow.
And it kind of freaks me out, too, because it's, I've heard different things. I've heard, these animals are in fact real, and the government is trying to cover them up. Has that passed through your mind as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
you
yeah.
think so?
Oh yeah. Have you seen this? There was I think you can probably still find it online. There was a booklet that was put out by the Washington State wildlife, people back in the 70s that had a Bigfoot. Yeah, they had a Bigfoot in its pamphlet that pretty much said it's a real thing. But for some reason, they've taken that out, and you can't find that pamphlet hardly. But they put it in there as a real thing. Like here's the wildlife of Washington State.
Yeah, it's like another one of the animals. We've got eagles, we've got beavers, we've got geese, we've got Bigfoot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they're hiding. I don't know if people are afraid. Have you heard of Jeff Meldrum?
Yes.
Dr. Meldrum?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen him? Have you seen him speak?
I have not, no.
Yeah, he came here to Logan last November, and I went to it, and just hearing him speak, he's never seen a Bigfoot either. He's never seen one, but he's seen the tracks, and he's found tracks. And he's pretty much said there's something there, but he doesn't know what it is. But he's like, I mean, he went through, so, science doesn't want to, I don't know what their deal is with Bigfoot. I don't know if they're afraid to say it's part of it, part of the, evolutionary thing. But he put this page up where he says there's not like 6 or 7 different, branches of, evolution. He's like, look at all these all these separate families of, primates. There's like 90 of them.
Yeah.
90 or close to 100 separate, branches off these, things. And I'm like, and he said, he's like, this is where Bigfoot would fit. It would fit right here, but they don't want to put it there. And he's like, I don't understand why. And I think it's a government thing. I mean, you've probably heard the stories about Mount St. Helens when all the army went in there and got all the bodies out of Bigfoot. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know. Our government, American, I mean, all of them are just, they have shady things going on when it comes to trying to keep the public safe, supposedly safe.
And you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that, because I truly believe, there's a gentleman, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Todd Standing. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
Okay. So he actually went out with Dr. Jeff Meldrum and took out, and have you seen his documentary? I think it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix here, I think, in Canada, but I'm not sure about in the US.
Yeah. I've seen it.
Discovering Bigfoot. Okay, so what was your take on that? Because I know for someone like you who's had a first-hand encounter and has seen the animal, that devil face, the one that was peeking out from behind the log, did you see that? You remember that?
I'm trying to think if I remember that one. I just remember the comparison between Todd Standing's face and the one Bigfoot face, and how they're almost the exact same. And that was like, I wonder, I can't tell if it's him or not. But I don't know. Like he has some great theories and everything, but I like the show. I just don't remember. I don't remember that devil thing. I don't remember that one.
Well, I was coming back to it as a reference because I saw that, and that was like, oh my God, finally someone's captured a real life Sasquatch.
Yeah.
On film. And it was just the way it was looking at him, and it had, it was clear. It was crystal clear. It was a 1080p video, and you could see the wrinkles in the forehead, kind of like an old man would have, in his 40s or 50s.
Oh yeah.
I saw kind of a bit of a receding hairline too. It looked human, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was like black skinned or darkish gray rather.
Yeah.
And the eyes were what stuck out to me. And I knew that, for it to be a faked, and this is where I go down the path of, I think it's more real than it is fake, is the eyes. The eyes were almost pure black. Like, how we have the pupils and that colored portion and are white around, mostly white. I didn't see any of that.
No, I didn't either. No.
That's what freaks me out. Is like, unless he's wearing some kind of a special contact lens, then it's like, okay, maybe I could understand, know? And then there was that thermal video of the animal in the tree as well.
Yeah. Those are always cool videos too. All those thermal ones are awesome.
Yeah. And you're looking at it and going, okay, this is a real life thing. Cause he put his hand in front of the camera too, as like a temperature comparison. So this was in fact a living thing, and it was up in a tree.
Yeah.
So, I've heard, the wood knocks, the tree, the howls, all that kind of stuff. I've seen the tree breaks. I've never seen, a tree break recorded, and I've never heard that. I've heard of people who have watched it happen. So it's one of those things where I'm just like, okay, where it does leave some room for doubt, but then at the same time, it's like, what if he's telling the truth? And the crazy part is that guy's from right here in Calgary.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I'll give him, like 90%, a belief. I really will. But, I just wish he was not so, I don't know. So I can't even explain.
So
I can't explain him. Yeah. But, but Jeff Meldrum, like, he convinced me 100% there's something out there. Just how he presented his evidence. But now there's all these scientists who came out, and he says, they have a, like a mid-tarsal break and people can't have that. Oh, yes, they can, like there's people that can have a mid-tarsal break too. That's just how their foot's shaped and how they're, it's their genetics and everything. So science is trying to disprove what he, because he's a primate, like expert.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's his expert is primate, like in their footprints and walking and everything. So he knows all about that. And if he says there's something out there, even Jane Goodall says there's something out there. So, if these two, highly touted people say there's something out there, there's something out there. I mean, even Les Stroud, he's from Canada and he's had his experiences up there,
Yeah. I actually watched his show for a while too, Survivor Man Bigfoot or Survivor Man Sasquatch, whatever it was called. And it was quite intriguing. Like he went to all kinds of different places all over Canada. And I think it was the US as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But his encounter, and he's, a pretty respectable guy. And he's got, the only thing is like he's got a camera crew with him, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Because I know he's got body cams and all that kind of stuff. And he did do a special with Todd Standing.
Yeah, so, I saw that one.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing with Todd Standing. But one thing I wanted to come back to was, if you do remember the devil face, or if you want to look it up quickly on your end and look at it, was the like when you did have your encounter, did you see the face, and what did it look like?
No, I didn't see this. I didn't see any face on the one that was Backlit. And the one that walked away, I didn't even open my tent. I just laid there because it happens so fast. I've never really had a full visual. Just that one glimpse of the Backlit animal, and then like a big brown blur running away from us. But it was too big to be a bear. It was too big to be a moose. A moose is pretty big. But it was too big to be a bear, and how it was running, you could see it was running on two legs with his arms swinging. But it was hauling really fast away from us when we saw it. But that was when we were 12. I was 12. I didn't have any really concept of what Bigfoot was until about like a month later when I went to school and we saw the Patty video in our science class.
Okay.
And ever since then, that famous clip of Patty, that's just, you can't, I just love that clip.
Would you say similar to it?
I'm sorry, what?
Would you say your sighting was similar to like the strides and how it was moving and all that kind of stuff? Well, when
we saw it, when it was standing above us, it didn't move. So we didn't see a walk or anything. I just felt like as I was walking by, that's not a bear. It wasn't until we got back to camp is that we thought about it. We're like, what the heck was that? So I don't know. Like I've seen things in the woods that I attribute to Bigfoot, because I know how bears act and moose act and elk and deer and and coyotes around here, and I know what they do, and I've had plenty of people tell me things because I have a sticker on my car, that has a Bigfoot that says I believe on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I get people, who stop me all the time and talk to me about it.
Really?
And, oh yeah. I mean, it's not talked about publicly by a lot of people because, people don't want to be, laughed at or made fun of, and I don't care. I know what I saw. I know what I believe. I know what I've experienced. It's like like you've heard the wood knocks, and heard the sounds.
Yeah.
There, you've probably felt, the infrasound, or there's something out there that we can't explain. Because you're up in Canada, so there's moose all the time and bears and everything. You probably heard those a lot.
You know what? I've seen a wild moose. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I haven't been out to the woods much, but the encounter that I did have was just, a vocalization. And when I heard it, it was like, what the hell, and, you're at that time you're trying to process. It's like, okay, that's freaky, but it's probably just a cougar or a moose or an elk or wolf or coyote or whatever. There's hundreds of different animals, that are native to this country, as there is with the US, right? I mean, you have totally different biomes of creatures living, in the Pacific Northwest as you do into like the Arizona desert, right? Like it's a very vast type of country that has multiple different biomes. You got tundra, you've got desert, you've got subtropical, all that jazz. So, there's lots of things that run through your mind. But when I pulled up that Sasquatch scream, when I found that video, it was, I think it was 2016, 2015, give or take. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to it, and I remember listening to it, and it made me jump out of my chair. Like it was like so eerily similar. It's like, whoa, what the hell? Yeah. And that's where, I got goosebumps. I was like, holy crap, I jumped, and it was so similar. And I was like, that's probably what I heard. But again, too, until you have a video of a Sasquatch making those same types of noises, it's kind of hard to attribute to that, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And, like, it's funny because, because most people that have these experiences are people who are only in the woods, like, 3 or 4 times a year, if that. Like, my friends who hunt all the time, they swear to me there is no Bigfoot around. I said, well, you're not looking for him. And plus, he knows you're out there. I'm like, have you ever had, I always ask my friends if they believe in Bigfoot who are hunters. And almost all of them say no, because they've never seen it with all the time they spent in the woods. And I also kind of feel like it won't reveal itself to anybody that has a firearm or bow and arrow. I really don't think I think it knows when hunting season starts. I think it knows when there's a lot more pressure in the area or more people, mm-hmm. And it just hunkers down.
Yeah, of course. It's kind of like a grizzly bear, or some type of bear avoiding humans, like loud noises kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to come out to somebody, or show myself. Like if I was hiking and I saw a group with guns, I wouldn't want to show myself, mm-hmm. Even though I'm a person, I'm going to go the other way and avoid them, because you don't know who they are or what they'll do.
Of course.
I mean, yeah. So, I'm pretty sure he's the same way, or, it's the same way. So, I always call it he. I don't know why, because Patty's a female in that video. So,
yeah. You know what? Like everyone's got their names for it, but
yeah,
whatever's more fitting for the creature itself is ideal. When you see this thing, your first inclination, oh my God, it's huge. It's got to be a male automatically. But, yeah, some of these things, could be females, you know. And by any chance, when you had your sighting, were you able to decipher if these were male or female?
I'm trying to. When it pushed my tent wall in, all I could think, after it walked away, it didn't sound as heavy as I thought. So that could have been a juvenile. It could have been a female. But it didn't sound like a big, heavy one, Mm-hmm. But the other one, it didn't move, it just stood there. So, it stood there like it didn't want us to see it. So I take it to kind of, I compare it to, remember the last scene of Harry and the Hendersons when they're out there saying goodbye to Harry and he's walking away, and all of a sudden there's like 5 more that turn and walk away. It was kind of like that. It really was like it was just stood there. It stood still. So we would think it was a tree, probably. I don't know. But that scene always kind of, it makes me, whenever I see that scene, I think of that experience of how it was standing, and it was like, okay, I'm going to hold still so that, they don't see me.
Yeah. It's human nature too. You know what I mean? It's, when you're frightened or startled or surprised, your kind of first inclination is, you freeze, I'm a big believer in that, that term fight or flight. I think it's the triple F term. So I say fight, flight, or freeze. In some instances.
Yep. I've heard
that's what some people do, right? I mean, I don't know too many people who, when they see a Sasquatch, for example, they their first inclination is to pull out their phone and start recording it. They're just frozen with fear and shock, almost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny that you say that because I'll go hiking and I'll come up on I'll see a moose, and I'll just watch it and I forget to get a picture of it, even though I have my phone in my pocket.
Yeah.
I'll walk away, or I'll go, or you'll walk away, and I'm like, crap, I just saw this huge old moose, and I'm like, I didn't get no picture of it. I mean, yeah, it happens all the time. Like I always see like sunsets I want to get a picture of. I never do it, even though I have my phone right there in my lap. As I'm driving, I could pull over and get a picture of it. I never do. I mean, yeah, it happens. Like, I mean, because most of the sightings are what, 5 or 10 seconds, because it's either running it, or if that, it's running across the road, you can't get a picture of that. But the cool thing now is most people now have dash cams. Mm-hmm. But I think most people who get something on their dash cam, I don't think they really want to share it, or I don't know. I'm sure cops have gotten some great things on their dash cams. I don't know. I don't know. It happens real fast, and some people can't. Some people will go back and think about it later and say, "Okay, what was that?"
Yeah, it's one of those things where it takes you a minute to process it, and you go, "Oh, it must have been a bear or whatever," and then you go, "Oh, but it booked it across the road in 2-3 steps, and this is a 15-20 foot wide road, and it was on 2 legs."
Yeah, and it got across, and as you said, like in 2 steps. Yeah, a person can't do that. I mean, I don't know. It's a fun subject to like get into, and I don't know. I just know it's out there. I just do.
Do you think it's only a matter of time before we get it either on film or we shoot one and we get a body? Like what's your view on that? Like how do we as a society come to the conclusion that this whether you've seen one or not, that this animal is in fact real, and how do you believe someone without seeing one up close or having a picture of it or having some kind of physical evidence that gives it concrete proof?
Yeah, my wife doesn't believe in it at all. She wants to have a body. That's what she says. She's like, if they get a body, I'll believe in it. And that's what's going to have to happen. They're going to have to get a specimen, and if they can trap one, fine. I don't think that's going to work. I think they're going to have to find one of the burial graves, or they're going to have to find it, kill it themselves. I mean, I think they bury their dead, and because I think they're pretty smart, if they've been around for so long. I mean, we're not the only animals that mourn their death, mourn death and everything, and they're a family unit. So I'm pretty sure, they have the same traits as us in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's gonna be a specimen that's gonna prove to everybody that it's real. All the fake ones that the guy tried to do a few years ago, that was just hilarious, because right when I first saw the picture, I'm like, that's fake.
Really?
Oh yeah. There's a guy here in America, I think it was in Kentucky. He got it on the national news. He tried to pass it off as a real Bigfoot, and they did DNA samples. It was like pig and bear and all sewn together and everything. And yeah. So I don't know, but it's going to be a specimen. But I'm sure they already have it. The government's not going to say. I don't know what the big secret is. I think they think people will freak out that there's something out there, but I mean, there's people who don't freak out about having mountain lions in their backyard. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
No, exactly. And that's my, you know, my stance on what the heck is that? Why are they hiding it from us? What are they using it for? Are they creating some kind of superhuman to create some soldier? I don't know. Like, and I'm thinking sci-fi craziness right now.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, you don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Like there's what is that site in the U.S. where Area 51.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's going on back there?
Yeah, exactly.
Are these where they're keeping bodies? Or are there aliens? Or is there something different? Or is it something where it's a top secret military facility where they're doing research for different types of technology for the military, which it makes sense. You know what I mean? But there's something fishy there almost also too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. HARP up in Alaska with the weather and, the chemtrails. I mean, there's a whole plethora of stuff that the government and, whoever else runs stuff, is doing, trying out and doing and, and messing with and testing and everything. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I read all the books of, of David, what's his last name? I think it's Politis, a missing 411.
Oh yeah, the weird guy, the goofy guy, right, with the weird hair.
No. That's on Ancient Aliens. No, he's an ex-cop. He does the Can-Am project, this Canada and America project with all the missing in national parks and national forests.
Okay.
Have you seen this guy?
No, I haven't. It sounds interesting.
You need to look it up. Yeah. So, sorry. So go on Can-Am project or Can-Am missing project.
Can-Am missing project. Okay.
He has books. It's called Missing 411. And Missing 411 are books that he wrote. He's an ex-cop that started doing research because he kept getting questions about all these missing people, and he found these there are clusters all over North America, clusters of missing people that go missing in the same areas, same time of year, same age, around same age. A lot of them wear the same color, same, male or female, kids. It's amazing. And he'll do some things where he kind of hints that there's Bigfoot, is doing it sometimes. Government's doing it. Probably groups are, killing people. And then there's, a spiritual sci-fi, side of it too.
Like aliens or something.
Yeah, aliens, like vortexes, other realms. But you'll get a real good kick out of that because it's real amazing. My wife, she watched those with me and read the books, and she's amazed by it. She's really interested in that kind of stuff. But then I asked her, I'm like, so you're interested in this, but not the Bigfoot aspect? She's like, nope.
And that's surprising to me, coming from her husband. Her husband is, an eyewitness to these creatures. And
yeah,
the thing that
she is, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, she wants the body like probably 95% of Americans do. It's not going to be real until there's a body on this, in the lab. But who knows what's going to happen if they get that? Is the news going to have it on the news? Probably not. I mean, it's run by just I don't think we're going to hear about it. If they actually get one, it won't be national news or like in the public eye unless somebody real famous in public gets on there, like on a live stream and live streams it,
Of course.
And then it'll be, so now we can't hide this, So I don't know.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, too, one thing that blew me away is that you've had multiple encounters, and is it all within the same area, too? It's all within the state of Utah, correct?
Well, the ones that I talked about were up in Wyoming.
Right.
They're a state above me. My other ones with the wood knocks, that was up here in Logan. So I used to be a chef. I was a chef for 15 years, and I got to be a manager of a lodge up here up Logan Canyon. And I'm not going to name the name because I don't want to get, all that going.
Of course.
But I talked to the owner one day, and I said, because I lived there too. I lived there in the middle of the mountains for the whole fall and winter. And I said, well, I didn't hear the coyotes at all last night. And he's like, you didn't hear the coyotes? I said, no. He's like, oh, because there's a Bigfoot around. And he said that without me even saying anything, that I believe in Bigfoot. He had no idea I did.
Wow.
And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah. He's like, if you don't hear coyotes, there's a Bigfoot around. They hate each other. I'm like, really? And he was just telling me, he's like, when we were building the lodge, we had incidents up here with things being broken and thrown around and sightings and everything. I'm like, well, why didn't you put it in the paper or anything? He's like, why would we? He's like, why would we hurt our business?
Yeah.
So, but ever since then, whenever I go up in that area, I howl for coyotes. And for years, since I was like 9 years old, I could go up there almost every time and howl for coyotes, just using my own howl voice and get a response. So, so if I go up there now, I don't get a response, I know why. Because there's something around that, is making them quiet. So, but yeah, he said it was, but he said it so nonchalantly, like, oh yeah, there's a Bigfoot around. Like he's seen him, but he won't tell anybody, like he's not going to come out in the newspaper and tell people because it's going to hurt his business, he thinks. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, I think they're seeing more than we know, or people see something but don't want to say anything.
Wow.
I know the cops up here have seen them.
Really?
I know that for a fact.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. I live in Logan, Utah. It's up north, and we live in this small valley right in the middle of this mountain range. And I've had friends who are cops, and I've had family who have been cops, and my one family member who was a cop for 20 years, he's like, people don't know what's out there. He's like, we get reports all the time of stuff. We've seen stuff. He's like, but we can't tell anybody, Oh yeah, I mean, he said if people knew what went on in the canyon, they wouldn't camp alone. And I was like, really? I always camp alone. But he's like, no, he's like, in certain areas, don't camp alone. But he would never tell me what area, because most of the areas that I go by myself and there's no one else around. Because I don't like to have somebody around.
Of course, I mean that's why you're going camping, right? Is you're going to escape, the
if I have my daughter with me. Yeah, if I had my daughter with me, then we're at a set campground, with other people, because after reading those books by those books on missing 411, I had to have I watch her real close.
Of course.
Because, yeah, so like in those books, I was going to tell you, that, kind of give you like some information about it. So in the books, like some people vanish within 20 feet of their other person. Like they'll go around a corner of a trail, you'll come up behind them and they're gone. Or you'll see them, walking up the trail ahead of you, and you'll turn away for a second, you turn back and they're gone. I mean, it's just strange. Or they'll or they'll go missing, and like there was one kid, I think he was like 2 years old. He was 2 years old. He went missing, and they found him, I think 8 or 10 miles away. later and about 2,000 feet higher than where he left, or was last seen. And somehow he crossed a river. I mean, it's strange stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So you need to so I would look into him for sure. And I can send you the link later if you want me to.
Yeah, please. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, he's on YouTube too. He's a really cool guy. I never met him yet, but I would love to.
Okay. And then one thing I wanted to ask you too is you had some vocalizations, right? Is that correct, or were they just wood knocks?
Both. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you don't mind, what is there like and I take it you've done your Sasquatch Bigfoot research on YouTube as well, right? So you've heard, possible Bigfoot vocalizations and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Was there ever any instance where you found something, or did you ever record something yourself that you heard that was kind of like, that's kind of odd? Or did you hear something that was supposedly a Bigfoot vocalization or Sasquatch vocalization? It was like eerily similar to what you had heard before.
Yeah, the Ohio Howl.
Okay.
The Ohio Howl one I've heard, that was real. That one was real scary because that was actually up Logan Canyon, up by White Pine Lake, and I'm gonna link this to people who live here in the valley, and they'll hear this and know right where it is, and you'll find it on Google Maps too. But I was at White Pine Lake and I heard that howl, and that just sent shivers. It was like, that is not mountain lion or coyote, because we don't have wolves here, and we don't have bears here. Well, we have black bears, but it wasn't a black bear, and it wasn't a mountain lion, because that thing it vibrated my chest. It was so close.
Really?
It was like, I was like, I mean, I freaked out, but I didn't leave camp. All I did was put the fire higher and got my bat ready, because I used to backpack with a bat. Now I have a gun and, bear spray and
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, but back then I just had a bat and I was pretty cocky. But yeah, that one, I've had eye shine. I mean, I've seen eye shine that was taller than, I mean, probably taller than a moose, but it was red. It wasn't, like it wasn't yellow or green. It was red.
Yeah, and I've heard that. I've heard different colors for all, different types, different regions all over the U.S. and Canada.
I've had moose eye shine, and it's always like a yellow, green color, but these ones are always red. And but I've had wood knocks, so like I go up and I'd have my bat with me, and so I just hit the side of a tree and wait about 5 minutes. I do it again, and then you'd hear like a small knock, up the mountain a few miles away, and then you do it again. You hear it closer, but that was just like I was, I never really put two and two together until later in life when I really got involved in this. That I was getting answers, because for a while it was just I'm just gonna play around, see what happens. I didn't have the full belief until like after that one sighting in Wyoming, at Heart Lake, and that's when it kind of started to started going for me. And then when I started meeting people that had their experiences, I had roommates that had experiences, and their parents had experiences. So I mean, there's a lot of people that have told me things in confidence that if their family knew, they'd be laughed at, because it's they don't want to be seen as crazy. I'm like, you're not crazy.
Well, and see, this is the reason I created this podcast, right? It's a safe space for people to come and share their stories and their encounters without them being judged or laughed at, and they can put it all out on the table, and hopefully it'll bring somebody else forward and be like, hey, something similar to that happened to me, a few years back or whatever.
Yeah. See, and that's why I started my page too, because I want people here in my area to know that they can, it can be anonymous. I'm going to set up an email account too, so I can just get email stories emailed to me, or anything, because I know a lot of people that would like to like actually have a way to like tell their side of things and stories and experience it, but they can't.
Of course. And
So that's why I started my page, and it's, yeah, I love it. My wife, will read it, and I've had people already send me stories and direct message me and tell me things already, and it's really interesting to me. I mean, it's fun because I know some of the people who actually have messaged me, and they said, "Don't tell my dad, don't tell my mom," and I'm like,
yeah.
"No, oh no, I'm not gonna, unless you want me to, but I'm never gonna say their names. It'll be anonymous most of the time, unless they tell me.
Exactly. And that's what I think we need, especially in this day and age, right? Is we are so focused on, if you don't have a picture of it, if you don't, pics or it didn't happen, is that term that people keep throwing around pretty loosely.
Yeah, well, it's also, there's like, I'm kind of amazed that, because this is what this is a story that happened to, me and my wife. We were up camping, and we were camping around this little campground, and there was a camp host there. Okay, so there's a camp host. Her and her husband were there at the campfire. We were all sitting around, and for some reason, it came up about Bigfoot. And she just sat there. She was talking to us. We were all kind of laughing back and forth, telling stories. And she's like, "Well, I got a picture of 3 of them." And we're like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, I got a picture of 3." And she was saying it as gospel truth. And I was like, "Okay, where at?" And she's like, "We were going on the road over to Avon, over to Eden. It's a dirt road, goes over this mountain pass. It goes from Cache County over to I think it's Weber County, over the hill, over the mountain. It's a dirt road, and it's kind of rutted in a lot of places." And they said they came around this one bend, and there was a family of Bigfoot in the meadow, and she had a Polaroid camera. She had a Polaroid. Hurry and picked it up, snapped a picture of them. And
Wow.
she says she has a Polaroid of them. And I said, "Well, can we ever see it?" And she's like, "Yeah, She's like, "I'll let you see it, but you can't tell people, that you've seen it." And I'm like, "Okay." So, but I've never seen it. I've had people who I know who've seen it, and they said there's 3 Bigfoot.
Really?
I don't know. I've never seen it, but other people have. I know. I got her in touch with the BFRO. I don't know if their guy here in Utah saw it yet, but she swears she has a picture of 3 Bigfoot, and people have seen it and told me they saw the picture, and it's a real good picture. And you could tell it's 3 of them. You could tell there's a child and a bigger one, and then probably the wife, or the female.
Like a family unit is what they're going for. Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, that's awesome. I don't know. I think people see them. I think there's pictures. I think people have videos on their game cameras, but for some reason aren't going to share it.
And that's, I think, where we both come in. You've got your anonymous account, which, by the way, I will mention too in this podcast. So, everyone check out how do you spell it exactly?
What, my name or my on page?
The page, Cache Valley, right? It's CACHE.
CACHE, yeah, Cache Valley Bigfoot. Cache Valley / underscore Bigfoot. Sorry.
Underscore Bigfoot. Okay, and you only have an Instagram account, right? You don't have a Facebook or Twitter or anything like that?
No, I don't do Facebook or Twitter.
Okay, gotcha. Which is, this is, and I've seen some of the stuff that you have on here. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got it. It's funny, as you talked about that, I got a message today from the BFRO about one of my stories, and they wanted some more information. And wow. So I talked to him for a minute online, and I told them if they want to get more, they can email me. So I think they're going to email me a report, thing, or whatever it is, a link to one. But yeah, but even with them, like, if you've seen Finding Bigfoot and everything, did you ever watch that?
Oh yeah, of course.
What did you think sometimes about how they treated certain aspects of what a person saw or experienced?
Well, you know what I think it is, and it's funny that you mentioned that. You've got Moneymaker, you've got Bobo, Cliff, and then Renee, right? Those are the four of them.
Yeah.
So, I think the three gentlemen are all about Bigfoot and proving its existence and da-da-da-da-da, which is great, don't get me wrong. But I think it's definitely more of a Hollywood-esque television show where and because we've seen so many shows, about Bigfoot where they rise and then they fall. And I think the only reason people keep bringing this one back is because they've got so many facts, but they've got Renee there to kind of dispute it all the time.
Yeah.
She's always disputing it. She goes, someone had that video that I can't remember where it's from. I think it was California or something like that. They saw a human figure walking up this hill. It looked like a really tall hill. I don't think it was necessarily a mountain. They recorded it and she's like, I think it's a hiker. And then they're just like, yeah, but look at it. There's no backpack. The guy's like, he looks like he's stripped clean. And this is a video, mind you, like a VHS tape, probably from the 90s.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it and it's just like, okay, like I get it. But it's it just, that's what it is, whereas I think if we go full Bigfoot-esque, there was a show back in the early 2000s. I don't know if you remember it, Mysterious Encounters. Do you remember that one? Yeah. So there was that one too. That's where my love for Bigfoot really came from. And, I found that one, that Autumn Woods, I think was her name. She, there were some encounters that she had. I think she was in California again, Northern California. And, she was just sitting there in the middle of this meadow and then they heard a noise. And like it was a big bump. It sounded like someone hitting the front of a bumper, but all the cars were standing still. And she freaked up and got out and was like, go, 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 get out of here. So, it's like if you're getting that close to a Sasquatch, at that point, record it. So people go, okay, is this real or are you going to freak out and run away? And that's what I kind of admire about the Finding Bigfoot guys is they're, Moneymaker had an incident. I remember on one of the shows, I think it was one of the earlier seasons where there was something on the hill and he ran towards it and it took off.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, I don't know if it was a Sasquatch or if it was a deer or elk or what have you. But I remember Renee just like flipping out at him, being like, why would you do that? You scared it off. And he's just like, I've been doing this for 25 years. Don't tell me what to do. So, it's one of those things where it's, it's hard to take it seriously. I really like the documentaries though.
Yeah.
And people definitely portray these animals as, bloodthirsty, man-eating creatures, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there is some truth to people obviously have aggressive encounters with them constantly.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And I'm sure there's people throughout history who have been killed by them. But I think these animals are extremely curious and they want to learn more about us, but we're kind of, human beings are the types of people that are just like, we don't know much about you, so, and you're bigger than us, you're scarier than us, so we're just going to shoot you and kill you. And I think that, what these animals have kind of had ingrained into them, because, I remember hearing an Indian man from one of the tribes, an Aboriginal rather, from one of the Aboriginal reserves in Northern California, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And he was talking about how his theory was that these, the first Americans, like the Native Americans, lived among these creatures and they were almost kind of like interwoven in the tribe. And they would kind of hang out with them and chat, or I don't want to say chat, they probably don't have their language, but you know what I mean? Like they saw them on a regular basis. And then when they saw, European settlers show up and the aggression and what had happened to the Native American culture, and it slowly disappeared and diminished. These animals kind of like took off for the mountains or just started living on their own.
Yeah.
And it, in some way it sounds far-fetched. Like I'm not a huge fan of those ridiculously weird chaos theories and all that kind of stuff, but there's some room for belief in there, and it's so true.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. See, I believe a lot of what the Indians taught and believe still. I mean, there's something to how they lived that, because they were close to the earth, close to Mother Nature, and their belief in Bigfoot is like it's a real living thing. I mean, I have friends who are Native American, and it's big in their culture. It's huge.
Yeah.
And they'll never deny that. But then but then you have people. I don't know. I wish people would open their minds more than not just listen to what the media wants you to hear, and and science and everything. Because I like to read and explore, but I read both sides of the subject, and then I make a decision on my own of what my thoughts and beliefs and morals and ethics and everything. And more, like most people, they just follow the sheep,
Yeah.
when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I just feel like, and if anybody's, hearing us talk and, this and that, and I just want people to know that you can talk about it, you can talk to us, talk to, me or Gus, write stories, write emails to anybody or, any group you want to get in contact with about your experiences, and, you're not going to be laughed at or teased or whatever, because like I tell my wife all the time, I said, if I ever like met Matt or Bobo or Cliff or Renee, they would say half my stuff, like half my sightings weren't a Bigfoot at all. Like it doesn't match up with what they, his criteria, and that's the thing is like, there's a few of my things that Matt Moneymaker would say was not a Bigfoot, or Bobo would say it was, but Matt would say no, or Cliff would say it, it was, or Bobo would say no. So, I mean, experiences are different for everybody. And, like animals don't act the same all the time, it's like people, we don't act the same all the time, and I think that's kind of the issue I have sometimes with finding Bigfoot is they would do that to some of the people they had on the show. I'm like, how do you know that, that didn't happen? How a Bigfoot would do that, And that's kind of the thing, like Matt thinks he has all this, knowledge, like he has a lot, but he has a set standard of value and set traits of what a Bigfoot does. And that's what kind of got me off the show. I stopped watching it after a few seasons because I'm like, he just has this set, list. If it did this, it's not a Bigfoot,
Yeah. Yeah. And you get some of those guys too that, bring forward plaster casts, or they've got pictures or videos or whatever. And then it's like, okay, well, that's pretty interesting. And, there's some instances where, all three of them will say it was a Bigfoot. And then you've got Renee going, I'm kind of having trouble, trying to decipher what this is. Like there was one, I can't remember where they were, but it was a while back, and it was someone was in a car. It was two people. The guy was driving, then one in the passenger seat, and they saw one, and it was crossing the street, like this fairly residential area. I'm guessing there was, a wood line close to it. Anyway, so they snapped this picture, and she's like, oh, that's got to be fake. And then they went to the site where it was taken, and they were like, wow, it might actually be real, because it was, they had the stop sign there in the picture for a size comparison, and its like head is like almost at the top of the stop sign. And the stop sign runs about 7-8 feet roughly.
Yeah.
So you're going, okay, unless there was a dude in a monkey suit, who was in fairly ridiculously good shape, and standing 6 to 8 feet tall in this very small farm town of 250 people.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe they're, maybe you have that room for doubt, but then it's like, okay, well, what else could it have been?
Yeah, exactly. So I got a question for you. So were you so it seems like you're a big fan of Finding Bigfoot and you watch all the episodes. Did you ever see the one, when they're here in Utah?
Oh man, I'm not sure. I don't.
There's one with the snowplow driver. There's a snowplow driver that saw one cross the road. There was one where they had that strange call right after they howled. I'm trying to think where else they were. They were, let's see. But it was all up here where I live. So they filmed the episodes up here. And so where the snowplow driver had his incident where it crossed the road, my lodge where I worked at was like a mile and a half away from there.
Holy Toledo. Wow.
Yeah. And the other one where they had the call that they didn't know what it was, that's about a 15-minute drive from my house.
Wow.
So they actually had episodes here and they had a town hall meeting here too a few years ago too. And so that's how I know there's lots of sightings around here, because they only come to areas that have lots of sightings or incidences.
Of course.
And so they have come here a few times and done shootings and episodes and stuff, but they didn't really. I think they haven't played the other ones they shot here yet, or they're not going to for some reason. I guess some people came back and said, I don't want to be on TV now, or whatever. But yeah, that happened up here. But the snowplow one, he saw that Bigfoot the same winter I was there.
Get out
so
of town.
It was around the same time I was there.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like a mile and a half away. Maybe not even that far.
So did you participate in any of these town meetings or anything like that?
No, the only one I went to was last year with Jeff Meldrum.
Okay.
I didn't go to the one, with Finding Bigfoot because they were charging money to get in.
Get out of here, really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think it was like $25 each person. Yeah. They don't say that, but yeah, it costs money. But Jeff Meldrum was free. It was funny. So I took my daughter, my daughter loves it. She loves the subject. We go out there up the mountain sometimes and just do like a fast howl or, go on a trail and find Bigfoot, So I took her. And so we got there. It was supposed to start at 7:00. We got there at 6:30. We were in this one room where they were saying it was going to be. And people just kept coming in, kept coming. By the end of it, there was 310 people in this room. So they actually had to change rooms and go to a big old conference room, like a bigger room. And by the end of it, there was about 380 people, hearing him speak. And that just showed me a lot of what people believe. And, because I think it's getting more mainstream, and I think people aren't nearly as afraid to go and say, I went to a Bigfoot, thing last night,
Well, yeah,
it was real interesting. It was really interesting. And that's, but if you ever had the chance to see him or read his book, it's really convincing that there is something out there. I'm 100% sure now. I mean, I was 100% sure before, but this just even, added on to it that there's something out there.
That is, yeah. And, when it's coming from a respectful source like that, you got to almost, take their word for it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because, if you watched that documentary Discovering Bigfoot, which was shot here in Alberta with Todd Standing, he took Dr. John Bindernagel, who has passed away, God bless his soul, and Dr. Jeff Meldrum. Yeah. So when they were out there, I mean, he had kind of an encounter, if you remember vaguely. You know, he saw something walk along the edge of the wood line because they were out in the open area.
Yeah, he said that in his thing, in his talk here. He said that he saw it, but he didn't know what it was. But he says, I'm going to tell you right now, I've never seen a Bigfoot. I've never seen one. But he said, whatever I saw then, I don't know what it was. But he said, I've never seen a Bigfoot, you know, like a creature. But he's seen tracks. He's seen the structures. I think he even said he's heard them, you know, but he's never seen one. Even that one he saw, you know, on that one on the documentary, he's not saying what it was.
Wow.
But yeah, he was really interesting. It was a really cool thing. But then when he pulls out, you know, he pulls out the patty film, then he pulls out the track, you know, line, you know, that it walked her walking path, and he does he breaks it down, and then he pulls out the evolution chart with all the other branches of primates, you know, and ancestors, and you know Neanderthals and everything. It's really amazing why all of a sudden we can't put Bigfoot in that, you know, in that genetic line.
Yeah.
Because he even says it will fit right here. It will go right here. And he's like, but they won't do it. They will not admit it should go right there.
Well, I mean, this is the Lord of Bigfoot when you really think about it. I mean, this is the type of guy that, you know, he's been featured on dozens of documentaries, television shows, movies. He's done speeches. You know, the guy is literally a walking encyclopedia for this subject, you know, and it's kind of worrisome in a way, because it's like, what's going to happen after he retires or he passes on?
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Who's gonna fill in that space for him? So it's all kind of like we're in a rush, you know, we got to figure out what this thing is before, you know, we lose wave of our evidence.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah. I mean, so what's your overall take? Like what do you think is going to happen to make it more mainstream and public? Is it going to be a body, or is it going to be a clear video, or what?
Well, let me tell you this. I can't remember the show, but I remember I did see on a show, it was either from a blood sample or from a hair sample. And they had analyzed this hair sample. I want to go with hair sample. They had analyzed it, and it was preserved really well. Someone had taken it, I want to say, from somewhere in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it came off of an animal that fit the description of a Sasquatch, right? Fair enough. And someone took this hair sample and kept it in a baggie, and, kept it away from the elements and, in good shape, and sent it to a lab. And they ran some tests on it. They found that this hair sample was actually part human. So it was like, I think this animal had roughly 23 chromosomes, much like us.
Yeah.
So we'll say it has 23. It might have been more, because I know, tigers will have different DNA than human beings, or they'll have a different genetic makeup. So we'll say that this animal, whatever it was, had 23. So they said, 8 were human, 9 were ape, and the rest were unidentifiable, which really blew me away, because that's pretty concrete when you really think about it.
Oh, yeah, bro.
You can't fake DNA. It's impossible.
True.
So I really don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely something out there for sure. And I think it's only a matter of time before we find something or someone. I mean, because technology is just, it's only getting better. It's insane, with how technologically advanced we are, now as opposed to 10 years ago, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think it's only a matter of time, before someone goes hiking in the woods and they've got a GoPro attached to them and something walks in the middle of that trail and they get a crystal clear 4K image of it, it's, the cameras are getting smaller, they're getting more stealthy, technology is wireless now, whereas before, you had to have it attached to big machines and you had to have it running 24/7. Now where it's, something walks, something causes a motion and it automatically takes a picture, like camera traps and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's lots of evidence there, but you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I definitely believe that there's something out in the woods of North America that we have not discovered yet. And we are, as a species, trying to put the pieces together and figure out just what the hell it is. And that's our problem, is we're, in a way, we're pushing for a set of proof to make sure that this animal does exist, but we're not taking the time to really understand it, and I think there's parts of that where it's, I don't think it'll come to you necessarily. I mean, you'll probably get the odd response from a wood knock or a call or whatever, but very rarely throughout history, in my opinion, have there been instances where people go out looking for Bigfoot and then they find one. It's not hunting, like when you go for deer or elk or whatever, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that, it's like what Les Stroud said, when he was asked, so have you ever found a dead bear? Okay. He says he's found one, and in all his years of, being in the middle of nowhere, hiking, whatever, in the outdoors, he's found one black bear, and it was a young one. And he said, other than that, he's like, I might find the odd moose here and there, but deer, deer everywhere that are dead, hit by cars and stuff. But he says, in the middle of the forest, he's found one black bear.
Wow.
Because he says what happens is they're gone in like a week. The mice, the rodents, the coyotes, the wolves, bears, all the scavengers come in and it's gone.
Yeah.
You might find a few hairs and bones, but he's like, other than that, he's like, no. So I don't know. It's going to be hard to get one. I really think it is, unless you shoot it and get it on a truck, real fast. I think if you shoot one, you're going to have 5 or 6 more coming in at you. I really do.
That's what I've heard.
I think they're family dynamics.
That's what I've heard. Is it's almost like a mafia family dynamic in a weird way. It's, you kill one of the relatives or one of the tribe or one of the family groups or social groups or herd or whatever the heck it is. They'll come after you.
Yeah. And remember that story? Did you read that story about Ape Canyon, about the miners that got attacked?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what happened. They shot a Bigfoot that fell down the ravine. They tried to find it. They couldn't get to it. That night, they got attacked by 10 of them?
Yeah, it was a group of miners. Yeah. And they were, this is like in the 1940s or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, that would not be fun. It would not be fun having that happen. No. So, but I think it's going to happen fast. It's going to have to be somebody shoots it, gets it back in his truck that fast and leaves.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I don't think it's going to I don't know. I want it to happen, but I agree with you. It's going to be a video probably where it's going to be undeniable that it's not fake. It's going to be, on accident, that it got on video. And it's not going to be sent to the news first. I think someone's going to put it online on YouTube, or somewhere and just say, look, this is proof. And then they'll, or they'll go to their local news and get it on there. But I don't know. I don't think a body is going to happen unless it's really, really planned out. I hope not. Actually, I hope it's not a body at first. I hope it's just a video that shows people, this is real. But
That's right.
I love this subject. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the belief. I love that I know there's something out there that other people, are denying. Like, I mean, I understand, if they haven't seen it, or experienced anything, they'll have doubts. That's fine.
Yeah. And that's, like one of my really good friends is an avid hunter in British Columbia, which is directly north of Washington State, BC and those two, that state, and it's where the Pacific Northwest, right, from the U.S. transfers into Canada. Yeah. He's never had an experience. I've talked to him about it. He's always thought it was interesting. I've sent him videos from that region where he does hunt, and he goes, oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? But it's never, I've talked to him about it, and it's always just like, oh, that Bigfoot thing, it's BS or old wives' tale or whatever. But, listening to you talk and, listening to some of the other folks who have reached out to me, it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it's, I have the belief, and, I told you this earlier, that I think they see you with guns or bows and arrows. You're not going to see them. I really believe that. That's why there's not a lot of sightings during hunting seasons. And if you look at the time of years where they have the most sightings, it's not during hunting season, or it's in other areas that aren't being hunted. I don't know. I just think they know when it's hunting season. I think they follow the animals up on their migrations and everything, because during the winter you see them a lot. You have more sightings down low, but summer and fall and spring you have them more in the mountains. But in the wintertime you have them like a lot more in town areas that I've read, and like I kind of have figured in my head after reading stories. I'm like, hey, look, it's time of year, time of this, this is why they're down here. They're following the deer, during or the elk, during the winter, and then spring, summer, fall they're up in the mountains.
Gotcha. So they're kind of migrational in a way.
I think there's some that do. I think there's some that stay close to where their home range is. I mean, they might have a sweet cave, somewhere where that's like, they've had it in their family for, years and years, and years and years and years. So, and it's never been found. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's caves I've walked right past up the canyon that if I would have turned, 5 feet later, I would have seen it.
Really?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, there was a girl that did a study. She did a mountain lion study up here for Utah State University. That was her thesis. She put out 800 trail cams in the whole woods, and she was doing a mountain lion study. And she got back all her cameras. They found out of the 800 cameras she put out, almost in the whole forest, there was 95 mountain lions in our area. I've never seen one up here.
Wow.
I haven't seen one mountain lion, but there's 95 so far, 95 different ones they've had on camera. But some of the cameras they had were just above, about like a 10-minute drive from my house. There's a area called Third Dam. It's a dam. There's a campground there. It's a beautiful place.
Okay.
And she had cameras set up above the campgrounds, and there was mountain lions out during the day, and people did not even notice them.
Wow.
So I mean, they're out there, but I mean, there's animals you don't see. I mean, I could walk right by, a mountain lion probably. I'm sure you have on your trails, on your hikes.
I haven't.
Huh?
I haven't, but I mean, there might have been one, and I just didn't see it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you probably walked by and didn't see it. Like I probably walked by mountain lions and didn't see them. I probably had them come in my camp, never saw them. So yeah, I mean, I think they're smart enough to not be seen, or they hold still like that one I saw. It just held still, like I thought I wouldn't see it.
Wow.
So I don't know. I think it's been great talking to you, though. I mean, I'm enjoying this.
Likewise, yeah. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I really can't thank you enough. You're the first ever guest for our podcast, so we appreciate you coming on here, and you're really setting the tone for, what you can talk about and all that kind of stuff. Because it's
no, I love to do it again.
Sorry?
I said I'd love to do it again.
Perfect, yeah. And my show is speak as loud as you want, as long as you want, whatever you want to share, as long as it's Bigfoot related, obviously. Don't start talking about sandwiches or politics or anything like that. We got some topics to stick to, but no, yeah. I mean, it opens your eyes. I mean, coming from an eyewitness is, I've heard all kinds of different things, and then, listening to an eyewitness hear, say, well, that's not necessarily true, or, oh, I've heard them or seen them do this, There's all kinds of different stories and behaviors, mannerisms that come with these animals, and that's what's so incredible, I think, about them.
It is. And I know people will probably hear this and say, well, he's not really an eyewitness, I'm like, well, that's just two of my experiences, like I believe what I saw with the Bigfoot. I saw it for 5-10 seconds, but after going back to camp and thinking about it, well, even right when I passed it, I even thought that's not a bear. So, but I don't know why I didn't think anything past that until I got back to camp. And we could all go into, how Bigfoot has infrasound, cycle, crap, what do you call it?
They manipulate
control. Yeah, like a mind control kind of thing, and but I don't know. But the first thing I did, I do remember thinking that's not a bear. So other than that, to me it was a sighting. Even to you, it's probably a sighting. So yeah. So I love this subject. I love that there's people out there who believe how I think also, who have the same belief. And I just hope people can actually start to talk about it more or share more, and don't be afraid to make your parents upset. Who cares?
Yeah. Well, then again, too, I mean, this is why it's anonymous, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think, when people are free to be and do and say whatever the heck they want, they're more prone to open up about it, especially when you respect somebody's privacy, or, they go, okay, well, I had this experience, but they leave out a lot of details, they go, so I didn't really see the face, but, and then when you have them on an anonymous level, they go, oh, it had a very Neanderthal-like face, or it did this and this and this, or it whistled at me, or whatever, or it said my name, God forbid, like something crazy.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I didn't see any really features, I on those ones. I just, because it was just, how it was set with the sun behind it was just, it was, you couldn't see really anything. I saw maybe a few brown spots of fur, but that's it. But it was just tall and big. And if you look at my post on my Instagram, you'll see the picture that will show you what it looked like. Yeah, but I was going to ask you, I'm like, so what's your opinion on the combo with Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, other things than paranormal, other realms or vortexes or anything?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. With me, you got to draw a line in the sand somewhere. So, I just go with, Bigfoot is a very real possibility, but, and I just leave it at that, because I've heard people say, you know, oh, they're spiritual beings that come from outer space, and, you know, they can speak our language, they can read our minds. And I go, okay, you know, like, let's draw the line in the sand somewhere, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just gets a little too nuts for me, you know, because I've heard about Bigfoot, and then I started hearing about werewolves and dogmen and, you know, all this other just ridiculous stuff. And I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to stick to Bigfoot.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about it all through, you know, every tribe, I think every single Native American tribe throughout North America has a name for these creatures, which is unbelievable. Yeah. So it's one of those things where we got to give some credit to it, I think. But at the same time, like I said, we've got to draw a line in the sand somewhere and just kind of slow down, take a breather, and focus on one thing before we start, you know, talking about outer space, because there's so much of our outer space that we don't know about. So let's stick to our own backyard. You know what I mean? And in your case, it literally is your own backyard, you know? You have a couple of sightings, you know, I want to say within, half an hour drive from your house?
Yeah, that's when I've had wood knocks and howls up here, and a few little incidents, but the main two I talked about were up in Wyoming, and that was only like a 5-hour drive from here. So I mean, it's not far. So, but you know, I agree with you, you know, about the UFOs or anything paranormal, like, you know, vortexes or spiritual beings. I mean, I believe in a lot of that stuff, but I also have a checkpoint to where I stop. I don't think of Bigfoot's like a spiritual, you know, like an alien or UFO kind of thing, or, you know, like it comes out of vortexes and goes back and forth between realms. I don't believe that. I mean, but can it be a possibility? Who knows? You know?
Yeah.
But to me right now, no, it's not a possibility. A Bigfoot is a natural animal that we haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, and so let's just leave it at that, you know.
Yeah, just leave it at that. You know, I mean, I can talk about ghosts, UFOs too. You know, I've had all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, everyone's heard that one way or another, you know. But
exactly, yeah.
You know, that's why I called the channel, you know, Sasquatch Diaries, not not paranormal or cryptid diaries.
Exactly, yeah.
Otherwise, I'd have dudes talking about, you know, the Loch Ness monster and chupacabra and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, when, you know, or skinwalkers or all that.
Yeah, I've heard about that stuff too, and it's you know, I'm gonna stick with Bigfoot. It's cooler things and
best subject.
Yeah, in my opinion, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's one of the most real possibilities that it could exist. You know, I know it does exist, but to everybody else, it will exist once it comes full circle, when they actually get the evidence that almost all people want. I still can't believe people think the Patty one's fake. You know, after all
you're a firm believer then that one is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe it's real for sure, because like all the scrutiny that's had over the years, you know, and there's still like all these people that are against the film say, well, it's still not proved that it's real. I'm like, it's proved that it is, because you guys can't prove that it's not, you know. I mean, they've done studies on it with, like, you know, with Disney, you know, with special effects. Lucasfilm's done it, you know.
Wow.
It's not fake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, it's just something to think over. So thank you again for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. I appreciate it too.
And for everyone listening, you can check out Cache Valley _Bigfoot on Instagram. Is that correct? Did I say that correctly?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's CACHE Valley, VALLEY _Bigfoot.
Yep.
Okay, on Instagram. Okay, thank you again, John.
Yeah,
really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Gus.
Take care. Have yourself a good one.
Yep, same to you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sasquatch Diaries podcast. If you like what you heard, hit like, and subscribe button. Don't forget to come back next week where we'll have a new entry. And remember, if you or someone you know had an encounter and would like to share it on our show, contact Sasquatch Diaries
Podcast
at gmail.com.